Link, Zelda, Impa, Sheik, Midna. The Legend of Zelda franchise is home to loads of iconic characters, many of whom would probably make for super interesting spin-off protagonists. I mean, it feels like a Sheik spin-off has been on the Zelda community's collective wishlist for a very long time now, especially since we nearly had one developed by Retro Studios of all people in the Wii era. While we might not have ever got that Sheik spin-off, we did get something that makes a lot more sense. If you played Majora's Mask or Wind Waker and thought, you know who I think deserves a spin-off? This 35-year-old who claims to be the reincarnation of a fairy. Well then, you're not alone, because apparently so did Nintendo.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
Now hold on though, let's backtrack a little bit. Tingle is a controversial character to say the least. He seems to divide opinions very often online, so I think we should take a look at where he came from to begin with. In 2015, Kotaku interviewed Zelda producer Eiji Aonuma, and when asked about Tingle's existence, he said, "We needed a character that you would be buying maps from. We ultimately ended up with a character here that had a little bit of humour to him that came from thinking, what sort of person would sell a map? And, well, we decided it would be the kind of person who makes a map. And the way that he makes a map is by floating through the air so that he can see the contours of the land and draw them. But as soon as we got that far in the process, we realised anybody that would fly through the air making a map has got to be a really weird person. So at that point we decided, okay, we'll go with this and make him a really weird guy." And make him a really weird guy they did. That weirdness is fascinating. Fascinating enough that Tingle actually became quite popular in Japan. In America, however, that story goes a little differently. IGN launched a kill campaign against him in 2004, and he was generally considered a somewhat disturbing character amongst gaming journalists at the time. Despite his controversial reception, Nintendo saw Tingle's popularity in Japan as an opportunity worth capitalizing on, and thus freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupeeland began development for the Nintendo DS. The game released in Japan obviously, but also here in England, although a US release was avoided due to his negative reputation. Okay, enough about the why. Let's talk about what Tingle's Rosy Rupeeland actually is, because honestly, that might be even more confusing. Rosy Rupeeland is an action-adventure game. A handheld Zelda action-adventure game, you say? I've played lots of those, not like this one, you haven't. Quite literally, the only thing making this anything even remotely close to a typical Zelda game is Tingle's presence. It's genuinely difficult to put into words what's even going on here. This is how the Zelda wiki describes it. The story starts when Tingle, first appearing as an ordinary middle-aged man, is offered a life in a paradise called Rupeeland. Tingle is guided by Uncle Rupee, who tells him to gather many rupees and toss them into the western pool in order to gain access to Rupeeland. Pinkle, a fairy that communicates to Tingle via a computer that resembles a Nintendo DS, also helps him along his journey. As Tingle explores, he will find numerous treasures which include collecting ingredients for concoctions such as potions and meals that can be sold to the locals in nearby Port Town.
Okay.
So money is really the name of the game here. Everything, and I mean everything, is locked behind a rupee paywall in terms of progression, so the gameplay loop basically amounts to gathering things and solving problems, all in the name of being paid in return. Careful though, because how much the NPCs pay you for your duties is entirely decided by a haggling mechanic. Overcharge and they won't pay, undercharge and you run the risk of death. Oh yeah, that's the other thing, money is life in this game. No, like actually though. Your rupees are essentially your health bar, think Sonic with his rings. And when in fights you'll get your rupees knocked out of you periodically depending on how long that fight is. If you have too low a number of rupees to survive the fight, you die. Which is also why the reverse of the haggling mechanic is important. Just as you have to try and charge the right amount to NPCs for your services, should you need anything from them, and you will, you also have to haggle for that too. suggest an amount too low, and not only will you not get whatever it is you want, but they will literally take your money anyway. Oh, and those fights I mentioned, yeah, so Tingle isn't exactly like combat proficient. Fights in this game basically amount to just touching the enemy, then entering a spinning Looney Tunes dust cloud animation while your rupees are knocked out of you until you're either dead or the enemy is. Honestly, maybe rupees being a health bar was the wrong analogy. It's sort of like a stamina wheel. You just have to hope that you have more stamina than the enemy does to survive. If you want to make these fights easier, you can even pay some NPCs to be your bodyguards and fight for you. I mean, talk about realism, Jack Doherty's been doing that for years. So, to recap, items, combat proficiency, and narrative progression are all locked behind paywalls that require increasing amounts of the same currency that acts as your overall health in this action-adventure game that follows one of the Legend of Zelda's most controversial characters. Surely, this game sucks, right?
It's false. No way. Not this time. Not this time. No, not this time. It's false. No way. We got you. Not a chance. Not this time.
Generally, the game received positively middling reviews from critics at the time of release. 6s and 7s across the board. It was often praised for being unique, and the criticisms were usually levied at the combat system, essentially being a case of the player not actively having to do anything except hope they have enough rupees to survive. Personally, I've always had a bit of a soft spot for the game though. Firstly, it looks gorgeous. I mean, the pixel art is so easy on the eye. It's really charming and colourful and quirky. Also Barkle, the game gets bonus points for him. More than anything though, I've always just loved how the game is absolutely dripping with ideas and creativity. The entire game, literally everything you do, revolving around a money management mechanic is genuinely so interesting. And it also just makes a lot of sense for a spin-off game about a character who originated as a map merchant. I totally understand people's frustrations with how punishing and tedious the game can feel. Rupees are everything, and yet there's not many of them, and literally every NPC wants to fleece you for them. But those things, however frustrating they might be, are actually what I like the most about the game. It's bold. It pushes you to the brink of bankruptcy and forces you to grind back up just to get knocked down again. And it's difficult to keep going. And in that, this silly little Zelda spin-off is actually a really interesting life simulator. The game pretty directly mirrors the hardships of the real world for the average person. You work yourself to the bone, tire yourself out day and night for money, because just like in Tingle's Rosy Rupeeland, in the real world, money is life or death. Housing prices are going up, the cost of living is going up. No matter how many shifts you work, it never feels like enough, because the one thing that doesn't rise dramatically is your earnings themselves. When you do have money, everyone wants it, not because they're greedy or bad people, but because they need it just as badly to survive as you do. Living is difficult this way. You can't progress narratively in the game without going through paywalls, and the same is true for your career in real life too. To get better jobs, you have to invest money into online courses, degrees, training. The game should be really sad. These are the high-pressure, life-or-death economic issues of our real lives that the game is mirroring back at us. And yet it does all of this in the silliest way possible. The silliest characters, the silliest settings, the silliest mechanics. The game looks at how straining life can be financially for a person, and instead of justifying it, shows you just how silly it is. Life is Tingle's Rosy Rupeeland. It forces you to grind your life away just to find ways of knocking you back down anyway. It's difficult and it sucks because it beats you down, and like we talked about in another recent video of mine, it makes you feel like you're not enough, like you'll never be enough, unless you're dedicating your life solely to that same grind it uses to punish you. But I find this game comforting because it asks you to find the humour in that hardship. To see how silly it is for the world to tell you that your worth is determined by the amount of money you have in your pocket. No matter how dark a hole the world tries to bury you in, the game asks you to remember to always find the light again, to embrace the silly and the fun, To care less about how some corporate shell of a person on the internet tells you to live, and instead to live how you want to. To survive, yes, but to find time for the things that bring you joy too, even if that means dressing up in a green jumpsuit and living as though you're the reincarnation of a fairy. That's the real lesson here. Yes, life is exhausting and unfair and built on systems designed to drain you dry. But even in that grind, there's room for joy, for silliness, and for finding meaning beyond just scraping by. If Tingle can find a way to laugh through the absurdity of his world, maybe we can too. Dude, I need to play this game again. Oh, okay. Never mind. Thank you for watching this video. I wanted to talk about this game that I think doesn't get the love it deserves. It was really quite ahead of its time. If you liked the video, please do consider sticking around and subscribing. Your support means the world to me. And let me know down below if you've played any of the Tingle games or what your ideal Zelda spin-off would be.